my channel again, and today I'm going to be doing a Boss Glam makeover for Lucy. I start off by cleaning her face with a wipe, making sure that there's no dirt before I start with the skincare for prepping her face for the makeup. Now I start off with this concealer, use that a little bit on the back of my hand, and I apply the most of the product to the base of her lashes, and then I use my fingers to spread a thin layer all over her eyelids. So this will help to prime the eyelids for the eyeshadows and make them last longer. Now this dries really quickly, so you have to work fast, but I do set it with a little bit of Maybelline Fit Me Loose setting powder in light medium using a fluffy crease brush. Now what this does is it smooths out the surface so that whatever shadows I put on top can be blended. Here I'm using the Anastasia and Mario palette, and I'm mixing these two shades right here to create a transition shade, going on her crease and blending it with a blending brush, going in back and forth and in circle motions, making sure that it's smooth and blended all over her eyelids. I love these tones because it really complements her skin tone, and it's a great base for a natural eye makeup look. Now this palette is discontinued, but you can find similar shades in other palettes. KKW came out with a palette with Mario. So Kim came out with a palette with Mario, and she has quite similar shades in her palette collaboration. But what I do is now I took the more ashy shade and I used that to blend it onto her outer lids and blended it sort of halfway into the crease. And what this does is it just darkens it slightly, giving a little bit of definition. And I use the blending brush to really blend it out and smoke it out so that there's no harsh lines between the transition shade and that. Now with the KKW and Mario palette, as you can see, the colors are very similar to the Anastasia and Mario palette. And I'm going in now with this shimmer bronze shadow, and I'm spritzing it with a little setting spray just to foil it onto the lids. This helps to really emphasize the color payoff and avoids any fallout on her cheeks. Although I do start with her eyes first, so for this kind of look, I think it's best to start with the eyes because you don't want any fallout. I also do go with my fingers just to accentuate that in the center of her eyelids. And make sure to blend the edges also. I'm going to be using a fluffy brush in a minute to blend those edges. So I've taken the flat brush now. Again, I'm just spreading it onto her lids. Now I'm taking a brown shade from the palette with a flat brush, and I'm just going into the outer V of her eye. And this emphasizes it, and I just take a clean fluffy brush and make sure to blend that out. I go back in, and it's always best to go in with a small amount and build it up than to go really heavy. As you can see, I am just blending this, creating an upward motion just to elongate her eyes, and then going back in with that crease brush, clean crease brush to blend those edges. And now I am just emphasizing a little bit more with the brown, bringing it a little higher and a little further towards her, the center and the inner corner of her eyes. But make sure that you use a really good fluffy brush to blend those edges. I also bring it up to the inner corner of her, beginning of her brows, and what this does closes her eyes and brings it a little bit closer together. Bone shade from the KKW Mario palette just to highlight the inner corner of her eyes, and then I go in with a fluffy brush to blend that out. I also use that shade to highlight her brow bone slightly. Now I'm using the Dark Matter Single Shadow from Mcgrath. This is a beautiful black shade, but I also pick up with an angle brush. This is a brow brush from MAC, which I will use as a brow, as an eyeliner, and I spritz in with a little bit of setting spray just to make sure that that intensifies and avoids any fallout as much as possible. And now I'm just smoking out a liner on her lash line. And what this does is it really beautifully creates a smoked out effect of a liner. But I do go back in with a liner just on the base of her lashes to darken that out again and define it a little bit more. So here I am pulling the wing out using the angled brush, and then I just go back in with a little bit of that brown just to blend the black slightly, because I don't want that to be a harsh shadow along her lash line. And I use the same brush I used to create that outer V. Blending it into the socket. Now I'm taking a brown NYX retractable eyeliner and I'm using that along her waterline. Now this does give her eyes a little bit more definition and cat eye effect, and I also use this to tightline along her top lashes. Brown is also a nice softer way, an alternative to black, if you don't want to make your eyes look too small. And now just take a wipe and make sure that I clean out any fallout on her cheeks before I go in with the face makeup, because you don't want any shadow sitting on her face if you're going to put a foundation and concealer. Now here you see me going with the Maybelline Fit the precise hyper precise eyeliner, and I'm defining slightly the top of her lashes, bringing the whole eye look together. And what I'm doing is I'm going to be creating a double wing, so a wing into the inner corner of her eyes as well as the outer corner. This will give her eyes a super cat-like effect. And right now I'm just smoking out a little bit of black shadow and blending out the brown eyeliner that was drawn in her rims. And now I'm going to create that inner corner point. I love this pen liner, felt liner. I tell her to look the opposite way because this stretches out her eyelids, and I would tell her to look up because I want to bring that point back into the inner corner of her eye. And what I do is I emphasize the inner corner and the outer corner, and then I just take a wipe and take off the excess liner just to clean it up and make it nice and smooth. As you can see, I'm doing this on this side now as well, and I'm using the angled brush again just to blend out the middle portion of her eyes. And I'm just going back to redefine the point, and make sure you take your time with this because it can get a little bit shaky. And now I'm just enhancing her wing a little bit more because I want that to be a little thicker than I had originally planned, just because I want to put her false lashes on. Now I'm going in with some mascara, and what I did, I took a spoolie, a clean spoolie, and I coated that spoolie with the brush of the mascara instead of going in with the mascara. And now I'm separating her lashes just to prepare them, curl them up for the false lashes that I'm going to be using later on. This is a good trick to do without having the clumpiness of the mascara. Now I'm taking a DW Christina lashes and a little bit of Duo black glue, and I'm measuring her eyes first with the lashes, and I think that was perfect. I did not need to cut any of the lashes and just went right in after the glue got tacky for about a minute. I love it when lashes just fit the eyes. And now I've gone back with the eyeliner and I am just smoking out the lashes and pressing the lashes to her own lashes with my fingers and making sure they're blending in nicely. And now going back in and smoking it out again, and then using the liner to extend the inner corner and hide the lash band. The other eye was very simple too, so just applying these. These are such beautiful lashes because they don't look too dramatic, and the band is not that thick, so it is comfortable to wear. I'm doing the same thing on the other side, making sure I'm connecting the inner corner to where the lash band starts and going a little bit above it just to hide it, and elongating the wing and straightening everything out. So now I am going in with a little bit of black charcoal liner because I just wanted to intensify that eye again, and tight lining with the black as well. I honestly should have just started with the black instead of the brown because I did want that intensive look on her eyes, but again, you can go with the brown. And a little bit more cleaning under the eyes before I start with the face. So now I'm going in with the brows. Now I'm using the Dip Brow Anastasia brow gel, using Duraline to soften it up a little bit, and using it, dropping a drop in the back on the cap, picking up from the actual pot and placing it on the cap, and then just mixing a little bit of that Inglot Duraline with that makes it really, really nice and soft, and dilutes it a little bit so it's not so harsh. And then I'm using that angled brow brush from MAC to create hair-like strokes on her own brows. She has done a little of microblading, but it had faded out, so this was a great way to draw out the hair that I had a guide for already, which was a good thing. And just go in very light-handedly. Try not to pick up too much product, and if you do, just put it at the back of your hand and just go in and draw hair-like strokes. Then use a spoolie to comb through and diffuse and soften it up a little bit just to blend it in with her own natural brows. This will give a beautiful effect. Now for her face, I'm using a little bit of Josie Marin Argan Oil, and I love to do this to prep her skin for moisturizer, and I'm warming it in my hands and placing it on her face. This is foundation. It's a 24-hour wear, and it was a really good match for her skin, and that base of that oil really helped to create a dewy effect on her face that helps to really blend out that foundation seamlessly. I'm using a flat kabuki brush here, which I found on Amazon, and I will link that if you guys would like to know where I bought that brush from. But I make sure I start from the center of her face and work outwards. For the area around her eyebrows, I do go in with a small concealer brush because this flat kabuki brush was way too big and I didn't want to disrupt all the work that I did on her brows. So I do go down her neck and on her ear with the foundation, and here you can see me carving out and cleaning up around her brows using a small concealer brush with the same foundation. A lot of times most people use concealer to do this cleaning, but I just wanted to keep everything seamless and not have like a shadow of a lighter shade around her brows. So I used the foundation. And now I'm just going to color correct using this Maybelline, actually L'Oreal Infallible. And it was darker than her skin tone. It has a warmer shade, so it helps to cancel out the dark circles. And I tried to avoid getting too close to her lash line because I didn't want to, again, erase any of those shadows and eyeliner that we created under her eyes. So I make sure to use very small strokes and small amount of product. I place the product in the back of my hand and pick up in that way. I don't use too much. And I just go into the areas where I felt like was dark and needed a little color correction. Mainly is the inner corner of her eyes and outer corner and around her nose. And then I do go in with my fingers to blend it, to warm it up. Now I go in with the LA Girl Cosmetics concealers, and this is a slightly lighter shade, and with that base it really helped to brighten under her eyes and around her nose, giving a little contrast to her face. I do go on her chin, her upper lip, nose, and between her brows, just because I want the center of her face to be a little lighter than the rest of her face. And now with a damp beauty sponge, this is from Real Techniques, I just go and smooth out all the products that I had placed on her face by bouncing the sponge, and we do a little bit of dance. I love working with Lucy. And oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. If you could only hear the music we were listening to. So now, yes, just blending and blending and blending. The key to this look is blend. And now I'm going to contour her face with Anastasia contour kit in medium, light medium, and I mix these 3 shades to create a really nice mid-cool, mid-warm. And I just go in where her cheekbones are and around her forehead. I also go around her nose, just slightly, and her jawline, just to define it. And as you saw, I'm picking up from that palette mix that I use the lid for. I go in with the small concealer brush to do these lines. And then I use my finger to blend around her nose, because it's just the best way, because it warms up the product and it really helps to melt it into the skin. And now I'm just going in, straightening out those lines. I don't want it to be too harsh. I do go in with my fingers, like I said. It really does help to blend small areas especially. And I go in with the concealer brush that I used with nothing on it, just basically using whatever was left on the brush from the time I used it before to carve out and clean up those lines around her nose. The last thing you want is for those lines to be too dark and visible, making it look too unnatural. Now for the rest of her face, I'm going in with that flat kabuki brush I used the foundation with, and I'm just going in and blending out all that contouring that we did. And this, as you can see, is not too warm and it's not too cool, and it's a perfect shade for her skin tone. I just go back in and add a little bit more where I need it, if I need it. But again, using a small amount at a time is key to creating this look natural. Make sure you blend the jawline and the cheekbones really, really well. And you can always go back in with that foundation and a concealer brush, which I do here. And I do go in a little bit around the edges of the face, cheekbones, and her jawline as well. That way it just helps to diffuse any lines. Now with the Fit Me Maybelline in light medium and the damp beauty sponge, I just dip it in and use a small amount at a time. I tap it in my palm of my hands just to make sure I don't have too much product. And I just go in and set the areas where I want to reduce shine and make sure that it helps to smooth out any pores or any creases. And I alternate between the sponge and my fingers to blend it out. And this also helps to, again, smooth it out and make it really, really beautiful. This powder is amazing. Now I use a Physician Formulas bronzer. It smells gorgeous with a flat angled brush, and I just go in and tap very lightly around her temples and cheekbones, everywhere where we contoured, and this will help to set that contour in place. At the same time, it helps to warm up her skin and just give you her that beautiful JLo glow. Doesn't she look like JLo? Her inspiration, my inspiration and her inspiration for this look was a JLo picture. And I just here go back in with a powder brush just to smooth out the edges. Now I go in with the Bahama Mama, the Palm Cosmetics, and I go and set her nose contour this time with this cool shade and go in and blend out her eyeshadow further just to make everything nice and seamless. This is a great trick that helps to really blend the shadow with her contour so that it doesn't really look too harsh, and it really helps with bringing together the face makeup and the eye makeup in one go. Make sure that you blend also under the eyes. And now with Ardell Beauty's Stroke of Brow, I wanted to create a hair-like effect, so I went in with the medium brown and I went on and drew a little bit more hair on her brows just to make it even more natural looking. As you can see close up, it does create a beautiful brows that is not too harsh. Now with the Veil from Hourglass, it's a mineral translucent powder and a sponge, I want to go in and further carve out and define her contour, and this will also help to smooth out any skin and brighten slightly under the eyes in the areas where we wanted to highlight this time. So the initial step was to set, and this is to highlight a little bit. And now with this Wet n Wild Bloom Time highlighter, I'm just using to highlight the tip of her nose and her just on top of the bridge of her nose, and then inner corner of her eyes. You can see that made it really pop, and it really complemented her makeup. And now just a little bit around her top lip. I don't go higher than that because you don't want it to look sweaty. And just blending it with your finger helps to diffuse and soften it out a little bit. And now with the Nars Orgasm blush, I absolutely love this blush. I go in and add a little flush to her cheeks using an angled fluffy brush. And as you can see, that glow is absolutely to die for. I don't even need to put any highlighter. That glow from that blush is enough to make her shine and just look absolutely stunning. I go a little on her nose again and on her chin and forehead just to balance it out. Now with the Carmex lip balm, her lips were really dry. I made sure to really hydrate them because she liked she wanted to go with a matte lip, but I didn't recommend that. So instead we went with the Urban Decay Vice lipstick in 1993, and I used a lip brush for this. I didn't even need to use any lip pencil because her lips were beautifully defined anyway, and that color just helped to complement again her makeup and skin tone and bring the whole look together. Using a lip brush helps to really get in the definition without making a mistake. And make sure you tell your client to purse her lips, and any corrections can be eliminated using the thumb or the nails. And now I'm dusting off the translucent powder. Make sure you do that so you don't walk around with shadow of a light powder on your under your cheekbones. So this helps to just smooth everything out and blend the edges of that blush too. And now with Marc Jacobs Dewy setting spray, it smells like cinnamon Christmas. I'm setting her face and then going in with a beauty sponge just to take off any excess drops that may have fallen from that setting spray. And that's the finished look. So now I'm just adding a little reverse, giving her, took off the band, but I thought it would be fun to just give a reverse effect here. And that's the finished look. You can see that beautiful glow. She looks radiant, natural, not overdone, and just absolutely stunning. So yeah, that's Lucy, my Luce.
Hi, my name is Luz. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Positive Living. And Positive Living is about feeling good with yourself, taking care of yourself. And I knew that Vita was the person that could reflect that on my face. I wanted to look the same way I feel inside, and Vita has done that. She has beautifully made my personality match my look, and I feel beautiful, and I feel confident, and I feel positive, and only Vita. I honestly cannot emphasize how much of an artist she is. I mean, makeup I know is something that you put and then take it off, but Vita does so much than that. She goes beyond that. She makes you feel confident. She makes you feel beautiful, not only for the makeup experience, but afterwards. So I fully recommend her, and the experience was amazing. The experience was so relaxing because she's doing all the makeup and you're actually relaxing. You're actually reflecting. Thank you so much, Vita. I really appreciate it. I love the makeup you did for me, and it's natural, it's powerful, and I love it. So thank you so much. And you can contact her on the website, on the link coming on this YouTube video. So thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys for watching. And don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share my video. Thank you. Bye. See you next time.